Today we are doing another Q&A video, but this is going to be for the month of January. I kind of decided that I think I'm going to do these Q&As once a month. So if you want to be in my next video, be sure to leave comments on any of my videos or a comment down below and ask me any questions that you have about any new products coming out or any products, that you have in your own builds. Like if you're doing a budget build and you need to get some parts off eBay, you can ask me any questions about that too. Really just anything computer related. I'm totally open to whatever for these kinds of videos. So anyways, let's just get right into the questions here. I have quite a few for this month, so I'm going to try to get through them a little bit quicker than I did last time. I'm going to start off right away with Zoomy. I'm going for a very similar build, except I have a 3070 Ti. I have been looking for the Asus B650A, but wasn't sure whether or not I should buy it. It seems to be one of the better mid-ranged AM5 boards, but I'm not sure. Would you recommend? And I believe that this is in reference to my 7700X benchmark video. When it comes to AM5 boards, honestly, B650 has a lot of the feature set that you would have gotten from like last gen X670 or Z690 boards. Anything more than that, you start getting into like future proofing for your build, which I don't really like to do. The only extra features you usually get by spending more and getting like, I forget what the class is called. It's like a B or X760 or something like that. I'm having a hard time remembering what the next class of board up is. But anyways, basically the next step up for these AM5 boards is going to start having like PCIe Gen 5 for your NVMe drives. Couple other things too that'll have like some faster USB-C ports. A lot of the stuff you're not really gonna need or use. Like I said, it's kind of future proofing to get anything past a B650 in my opinion. Even the B650s aren't really all that cheap. I think some of the prices on a few of them are coming down and they're making some cheaper lower end models, but for the most part, this Asus B650A board, it's an excellent motherboard. It basically has a pretty high-end feature set that you would have seen out of like I said, a Z690 or an X670, but on a B650 board. So the naming scheme to me, it's a little deceiving because you think B650, you think it's going to be low end, but honestly, like the VRMs, a lot of the time the audio chipset, I think all of them have PCIe Gen 4 now, and none of them are stuck on PCIe Gen 3. So yeah, definitely a good board. I wouldn't worry too much about it being a B650. It's gonna do excellently for you for the price. All right, moving on quickly here. We're going to, I apologize if I messed this up, Katios. With a NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3070 Ti and a AMD Ryzen 5 3600 6-core processor, do you think I will be able to hit 360 FPS for my 360Hz monitor? I'm not sure which video this was on exactly, but it's a pretty straightforward question. When it comes to asking a question like this, one thing I want to specify is what resolution are you playing at? And what games are you playing? It's kind of hard to give an answer to a question like this when I have no idea what you're playing. Like, are you going to get 360 FPS at 4K and God of War? Probably not. I assume that this is kind of asking for esports titles, but like I said, it's kind of hard to know. I do know that we chit-chatted in the comment section quite a bit already, so I kind of know now what games he likes to play and stuff. But just for in the future, that's one thing you got to think about when you're putting your build together is like, what games am I playing? I do have a 360Hz monitor, but is what I'm putting together actually able to get 360 FPS, or is the game even built to go that high? A game like League of Legends that I play doesn't even have a cap at 360 FPS, so you would have to leave your FPS uncapped. And in my experience in League of Legends, when your FPS is uncapped, you start getting a lot of jittering and stuttering, and the game just doesn't want to run that fast. You can manually cap your FPS in some of the NVIDIA, I think AMD too, some of the user settings. You can manually cap your FPS. I did that for a little while, and I think I capped it at like 280 FPS just to be a little over 240 Hertz. But after a while, it stopped working. I'm not really sure why. So basically what I'm trying to get at with that is that has its own host of issues sometimes. So, you know, you really got to know what game you're playing, what it can handle, and then just watch some benchmark videos and just see what, you know, certain CPUs can do in that title. The 3070 Ti for almost any esports title is going to be overkill. Really, what you're going to usually end up needing is a higher end processor to render all those frames, and you're probably going to need a decent kit of RAM as well. You can't really go with like just a cheap kit. If you're going with a DDR5, like a 7700X or something like that, those RAM kits, if you're getting like a 6000 megahertz CL36, it's going to be plenty of speed for an esports title from my experience. But yeah, so to kind of answer this question here, I don't think, honestly, in any title, this setup would get 360 FPS. I haven't done a whole lot of testing on the 3600 in a while, but even when it was launched, I don't think it was getting that high of FPS in Counter-Strike or anything like that. And then the 3070 Ti, there's certain titles that are going to be a little more graphics card dependent. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is one that comes to my mind right away. And yeah, in a title like that, you're probably going to want like a 7900 XTX and to lower the settings to be able to get 360 FPS. That's always a thing too, is like, are you like maxing out the graphics settings? Like, what's your goal with that too? Because you can usually get 360 FPS on a lower end rig if you lower all the settings all the way down. There's a couple factors here that you got to think about when you're putting a build together. I know this one's a bit more long-winded, but it's just kind of more of like a PSA. It's good that he has like an outline. He's like trying to get 360 FPS for his 360 hertz monitor, but then you got to list out the games you're playing, and then you got to think, am I okay with lowering the graphic settings to reach my goal in a competitive game? Because honestly, there's no reason to have this high of FPS in, you know, a single player title. So I think that answers that. I think we can move on. Next question here is from Hilda Kagura. Random question: can the i3 12100 paired with RX 580 8GB without having a bottleneck? Yeah, for sure. The RX 580 isn't necessarily like a super crazy high-end card. The 12100 can handle anything up to a 3060 Ti. I think the big reason why I pulled this question was a good way to be able to tell, at least from like my own video and other videos that people might do, to see if your CPU is going to bottleneck your graphics card. Is if you can see that it'll handle in my video I said it can handle up to a 3060 Ti. I forget the website exactly, but there's certain websites where you can go on and you can select like the 3060 Ti, and then anything under the 3060 Ti on that list will run perfectly fine. So you just kind of like start with a 3060 Ti and just go down the list for anything that, you know, performs worse. And eventually you'll see the RX 580 or your graphics card. You can control F too and just see where it is on the list. And then you'll know that it should be perfectly fine for your setup. I hope that made sense. Maybe I'll post a link to the website down in the description that you can use. I always use the same website. Basically, it just takes a ton of user data and puts it all together in a nice bar graph, and it'll let you like select the 3060 Ti as like your starting point specifically, and then you can control F and type in RX 580 or whatever graphics card you're looking at and just see where it lands on the list comparatively to the 3060 Ti. And then you'll know, if it's worse, it'll be fine. If it's better, then you're probably gonna run into a bottleneck. So yeah, hope that answers that question and helps anybody out looking to do something similar. Moving on to the next question, we have one from Pablo Rediganda. Hope I said that correctly. Hello, I am from Argentina, and the 13th gen of Intel comes fastly out of stock where he's at. He bought a C690 motherboard, DDR5, and he doesn't have a processor. He's asking what CPU I would recommend. Wait for the 13600K or buy a 12400 or 12600K. His graphics card is a 6900 XT and he wants to use it without being bottlenecked. Thanks for the help and very useful video. Thank you. So I'm pretty sure what I told him to do here is, honestly, the 12400 can handle a 6900 XT just fine, and it'll save him money for in the future. I think basically what I got at with him in this one is that I would start with a 12400. It's a pretty cheap processor and it'll get him by for a while. And then when he's ready, he could upgrade to like a 13700K. I think the 13700K is actually like really good value. And the value is just going to keep getting better as time probably goes on and it gets cheaper. 13600K is a great processor for mid-range, but honestly, unless he's doing video editing and stuff like that, he probably doesn't need the extra cores or the extra performance and applications and stuff. He's gonna be by and large seeing the same exact gaming performance at with the 13600K or the 12400. The only thing that would change that is if he's stuck on a 1080p monitor, and maybe I should have asked what he's playing on. But if he has a 6900 XT, I kind of assumed he was on at least 1440p. And when you're on 1440p or 4K, you're going to be way more graphics card bound than at 1080p. Yeah, basically, I kind of told him to go with the 12400 and wait until like he wants to get a 13700K. I just felt like that was probably the best route for him. Yeah, hope that answered that question. Next one here is AZ with a kind of looks like a smiley face. Is the best value GPU/CPU combo at the mid to high tier? So this one's kind of broad. I would say that I think the mid-range is going to be the spot that has probably the best value. I think that's been true for a while. There's kind of like a point where you spend usually like $1,000 to $1,500, I would say. I think $1,500 is probably the best sweet spot right now, where you can get a really incredible system that'll play most games at like 1440p and have some 4K gameplay and all that into like $1,500. And then you kind of get diminishing returns for like something more powerful. You basically need to go up to like $2,500 for, 10-20% more performance, and that's kind of a lot. You're almost doubling what you would be paying just to get a little bit more. And then when you go too low, there's only so much margin in some of these products that the more you try to cut costs, the worse your system is for not a whole lot of savings. If I compare like a $700 build to like a $1,000 build, so just like 300 more bucks, I think the performance difference can be pretty drastic. So yeah, basically to like kind of answer that, I think that the mid tier is usually going to be perfect for value. Obviously there's going to be big spenders out there that want to just have like the best performance, highest end stuff, and you kind of pay for it. And then there's some people that have to be on a really, really tight budget, so they're going to be buying some last gen parts, used parts, just stuff like that. And I know it's like you're pinching pennies as you're trying to just get something together to play on, but like I said, usually as cheap as you can go for something that I would be comfortable giving to somebody is about like $700. And if you just added $300 of budget on, if you could just manage to save up another $300, you could easily get something like twice as good as like a $700 build. So yeah, to me, mid-range, like $1,500 about, is probably going to be like the best value you can get in a build. All right, finally, we're on to our last question here. It is from R6X. Informative video, thanks. Will the 12400F plus 4090 work? Will FPS drop below 60 like the 12400F in Cyberpunk shown in this video? Yeah, I wouldn't recommend putting a 12400F with a 4090. It's a very capable processor, don't get me wrong. It definitely punches above its weight class quite a bit. I would only be comfortable pushing a 12400 up to like a 3090. And that's probably like really its top end limit. Like you're really pushing it. So this is one thing I don't get sometimes is like some people are like willing to invest in a 4090, but they try to bring their budget down by slapping it with like a lower end processor. If you've got the budget for a 4090, you should be able to add in an extra like $100 or $200 to, get something like a 13700K or 12700K even for like this generation of Intel stuff. 5800X3D honestly would handle a 4090 just fine. Even like a 7700X. A lot of that stuff is not that much more expensive for what you're already spending. It's kind of like the previous question where it's like mid-range feels like perfect. Like a 12400F is perfect for a mid-range build, and it has fantastic value for the performance it's giving you. But like I said, yeah, you're gonna have diminishing returns as you go higher, but you also can't just buy a 4090 and slap it with a mid-range CPU. That just isn't gonna work. So, you know, if you're gonna be a big spender and get a 4090, you gotta kind of just go all in on it and get something better. You know, I think the minimum I would get with a 4090 is like a 7700X or a 13600K right now. You could probably squeeze something a bit lower. Like I said, you go with like a 12th gen Intel processor, like a 12600 or a 12700, and you could probably get away with it. Or you could get like a 5800X 3D, and that would be fine too. But that would be like if you're really trying to pinch pennies and you want to go with something last gen. But honestly, if you're already spending this much, you might as well get something current with DDR5 memory, and just have a better overall setup. That would be my call. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this month's Q&A. I would just like to thank y'all for watching this video today. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave any questions and comments to get into the next one for February. If you liked the video today, please give it a like. It really helps out with the algorithm. Same with the comments, also helps the algorithm, helps boost the video up and the channel. And if you enjoy my content and you've been following my channel for a little while, please consider subscribing. We're slowly climbing up. We hit our first milestone a little while ago with 100 subs last month when I did the last Q&A, and we're about halfway to 200, so that'll be another really awesome milestone. Once again, thank y'all for watching, and I hope to see you all in another video.